I wasn't getting enough oxygen, and I just had on one of these little stupid things, okay? I understand the virus is real. Friends, tell me why we're putting these things on and not being able to breathe. I just want to cry because you can't see people's faces. We can't hug people. You can't make human connection. And I do care about you, but I also care about me and my children and my family, and I do care about my rights. And it's probably the last time I'm wearing this because I feel physically like it affected me. So anyway, there you go. Anyway, there you go.
Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys on the third day of election week. And it still continues. The race has not been called. Pennsylvania just came out to do a press conference and everyone's like, whoa, Skittles. All right, we're about to do a press conference in Pennsylvania to figure out who was the president. They're like, couldn't count all the votes. Give us at least another day. Look, we knew that this was going to happen, and we particularly knew that it was going to happen in Pennsylvania. And we told you about that. We wrote about it in our swing state guide. But it's still enormously frustrating that states like Pennsylvania, California, just cannot figure out how to count votes. They're perplexed by it. They're like, dude, is there some sort of machinery for this? How do we make this happen? I mean, look, the bunglers in Florida figured it out. If Florida can figure it out, anyone can, but apparently not true in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona at least, and apparently North Carolina as well.
Well, it depends on the state's laws, right, on elections. So Pennsylvania couldn't begin tabulating the ballots until literally the day of the election. So that's an issue.
Yeah, but so I'm with you, Anna, and we explained that also on election night too, of course. On the other hand, Florida has one day basically they get their mail-in ballots ready to go, and on Monday, before the election day of on Tuesday, they tabulate all the votes. So then on Tuesday night, they're like, okay, here's the votes for mail-in ballots. So by definition, that means they tabulated them in one day, right? And so here we are on day 3, and 5 states are still like, right? And by the way, this doesn't help our cause at all. Because the more we talk about what are they doing, why can't they count faster, the Trump people get to go, aha, what? We'll talk about that later in the show. Aha, nothing, right? But it is frustrating, and we get constant reports of Biden very likely to win Pennsylvania and likely to win Arizona and Nevada, but they keep teasing us and then saying, but wait, we got like 20 more votes to count, and we'll get back to you on Saturday. So that's honestly, to some degree, the state of play. We've got Arizona and Nevada that might come in tomorrow. They might come in tonight. You'll see conflicting reports 1,000 times over.
Right.
Anyway, but let me give you the latest on where things are. So in Georgia, Trump holds on to a 0.2% lead. His lead is now under 10,000. And there's 2% left. They appear to be all from Atlanta, which is not good news from Trump, but we will see how that plays out. In North Carolina, nothing has moved. I mean, nobody ever talks about North Carolina because Trump is likely to win North Carolina, which would just be the norm. That wouldn't change anything. If Biden were to win North Carolina, that would be surprising and it would make a difference. I guess everybody's assuming that Trump's gonna win North Carolina, but they haven't moved in ages either. They're at 95% reporting, 1.4% lead for Trump. And could Biden win that? Yeah, he could definitely win it. It's less likely, but he could. Pennsylvania, now the lead is down to 1.2%, and 93% are reporting. And there's 35,000 mail-in ballots from Allegheny County, that's Pittsburgh, that are not going to be reported today. And the longer that this continues, the more legal challenges that the Trump people are throwing up. I mean, the absurdities of the legal challenges are both dispiriting and hilarious at the same time. We'll cover some of those in this show. We covered some of it in the morning. Get your Sharpies ready to take notes on those. Okay, now in the states that Biden is leading, Nevada has counted 89% of the vote. And Biden's lead is up to 0.9%. In Arizona, they've counted 86% of the vote, and Biden's lead is down to 2%. So whereas there are Democratic areas left to be counted in Georgia and Pennsylvania, there are more Republican areas left to be counted in Arizona. So I think I said those states right. Pennsylvania and Georgia's got more Democratic areas left. Arizona has more Republican areas left. So, and obviously the Biden team, literally every single Democrat is saying count every vote. If it goes against us, if it goes for us, if it's in our areas, it's in your areas, it's okay. We believe in a thing called democracy, and we think you should count every vote. As you'll see in a little bit here, the Trump supporters do not agree. They think you should only count the votes where it helps Donald Trump, and that is quite literal, and we have video proof of it, including a late Donald Trump tweet as well. So it's not amazing that the election is not called on Thursday, especially given how tight some of these states are, but it is nonetheless frustrating that they had eons to prepare, and these 5 states still could not find a way to count every vote within 3 days. Okay, so we also have hilarious stories today. I mean, if you guys haven't seen Trump's Preacher, I knew rappers were on Trump's side, but I didn't know that the preachers were also rapping. Wait till you get a load of her, you're gonna love it. But let's give you more details on some of these election issues, so I'll kick it over to Anna.
All right, well, as you can imagine, Donald Trump is encouraging his supporters to show up at polling locations and essentially intimidate officials who are working to count the ballots. They want to make sure that they count every vote. And one incident that happened last night in Maricopa County really does symbolize what Trump's strategy is here and what his supporters are doing, depending on what the vote count is at any given moment. If Donald Trump looks to be ahead, they say stop the count. If Donald Trump appears to be behind, they'll say that there's Democrats stealing the election. And so let's start off by giving you the first video, where in Maricopa County, Arizona, the location was forced to shut down as a result of Trump's armed supporters showing up and causing a scene. For safety reasons, understandably, the polling location had to close. Let's take a quick look at that.
Stop that steal! Stop that steal! Stop that steal! Stop that steal! What's going on?
Very stuck on that. Okay, you want to get up on that level? Take a look at the landing, right? Okay. Okay. Wheelchair ramp, this over here. And your knees to be high. Good. Get out of your way.
So one of the protesters who showed up was Republican Congressman Paul Gosar, because of course. But again, I want to really reiterate and drive home the point that the protesters chant different things depending on where the vote count is. If Donald Trump is ahead, they chant one thing. If Donald Trump is behind, they chant something completely different. Here's a perfect example of that. So in some cases, it's stop the count, stop the vote. I mean, it's just absolute madness, and it makes it abundantly clear that it's not really about ensuring that every ballot is counted accurately. It's not about ensuring that we maintain and protect our democratic process. It's just about ensuring that Donald Trump gets back into office or continues to stay in office regardless of what the American people want. And that's why I've been saying over and over again that these people do not actually value our democracy. They do not value our Constitution, our right to vote. What they want essentially is some authoritarian government where who they want is in office regardless of what the American people want. And it's absolutely disgusting.
No, look, it's obviously wildly hypocritical. It's un-American to say stop counting the votes. I mean, do we have to clarify this? And the answer is yes, we have to clarify it. Half the country unmoved at all. They're like, yeah, way to stop the count plus continue to count. Count all the votes, but not the ones over there. They say it with a straight face. They don't think it's hypocritical. And that breaks my mind. I can't understand how people could be so irrational that they could actually believe those things. But John, on an amusing note, made a great point this morning in our coverage. The ones chanting in Pennsylvania, we get, okay, you say, all right, I don't like democracy. I don't want you to count everybody's vote. I want you to only count my vote. I mean, let's go dictatorship. Let's go dictatorship. I got it. That one at least I understand, right? In Arizona, they're chanting count the vote in front of a building where they're counting the vote. And all you could do is actually delay them, which they actually did. It's so Trumpian to be that counterproductive. But John made a great point about how gratuitous it is. It's like sitting in front of the microwave and chanting, pop the popcorn, pop the popcorn. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Why do you need the chant? But I bet if a Trump voter heard this, they'd be like, oh, that's a good idea. They get right in front of their microwave, pop the popcorn, and then they get confused in the middle. Stop the popcorn, stop the popcorn. I mean, it's
crazy.
No, but what do you do with a country that's half mental? That's the thing we're trying to figure out right now. And look, this is important, guys. There is no repudiation. So we were hoping for a blowout. That would mean that the country repudiated Trump and his madness, and that is not what the country did. About 48% of the country said, attaboy! And when they see madness like this, they think, yeah, go for it. Trump just tweeted out that the former Nevada Attorney General said, well, Trump clearly would have won if it wasn't for mail-in voting. Yeah, well, that he would have won if we only counted the votes for him. That is true, but that's not really how democracy works. And of course, should be pointed out every time, Trump and his entire family did mail-in voting. Like irony has died, and so logic has died for half the country. And so you wake up one morning, except it happened over the course of 5 years, and you realize, oh, half the place is zombies that doesn't care about logic or facts at all.
Can I actually give you an example of a story that just broke? So to our viewers who are watching live, thank you for sending this to me via Twitter. Pro-Trump Alabama police captain says Biden voters deserve a bullet in their skull.
Okay.
This is a police captain. His name is Scott Walden. He's a police captain from Flomaton, Alabama, and he's facing an internal investigation and calls to resign after suggesting on Facebook that people who voted for Joe Biden deserve a bullet in their skull.
You know, there was the cop in Miami with the Trump face mask. There was the New York cops that were blaring on their sirens from the cop cars to vote for Trump. And so that's why it's so important to get the vote counted, get all of the vote counted as expeditiously as we can. Because the longer this festers, the more they're showing up with guns. And we had folks with guns in Arizona. We had them. There's calls for an army to unite in Michigan, and now some of the police are. And we've seen this in the past. I mean, Kyle Rittenhouse, the guy who shot and killed a couple of people in Wisconsin, the cops were giving him water afterwards, talking to him. They were giving him water before. They were talking to him afterwards, super casually, and they let him go. And they're like, "Oh, right. He murdered a couple of people. I guess we got to go pick him up." And so now we've got cops going, "Let's just start shooting the Biden voters." So, look, I don't think they'll get away with any of it. And their legal arguments are being thrown out of court in every case. We'll talk more about that later. And it's because they're coming with absolutely no facts. You could do that on Fox News, you could do that on media, you could do it on Twitter sometimes, but you can't do it in a court of law. But it doesn't change the fact that half the country is here for it. They're down for it, and they think, oh, great, okay. Oh, we're in the middle of a coup. Oh, how much fun. Okay, let's just do it, and then in the United States of Americanistan or whatever we're gonna be, we'll get to rule over people and hold them hostage like we used to do in the past. It's gonna be great. I can't wait till there are, we've got them in shackles again. It's yay! And don't pretend you're not in favor of that. If you're saying stop counting all the votes, you don't believe in America at all. It's the most obvious thing in the world. And so I wish you'd already moved to Saudi Arabia and we could be done with it.
Absolutely. So we have more breaking news. So look, the show's gonna be a little more fluid today as a result of news breaking throughout the program. But NBC, and you're gonna love this, Cenk. I'm gonna do the Ossoff story next. So NBC has made the call. Ossoff and Perdue are going to head for the runoff in the Senate seat, in the state of Georgia. I don't know if you knew about that, Cenk, or if this just broke. Oh, you did? No, that just broke, but I knew that Perdue had slipped under 50%. So what we've got here is 2 races, Senate races in Georgia that are going to a runoff because that's how Georgia operates their elections. If no one gets to 50%, the top 2 go to a runoff. So in one of the races, there was tons of Democrats and Republicans, and Warnock and the current incumbent Loeffler came out of that, and they were already going to a runoff, and we knew that going in that they were going to split the vote so much. In this particular case, it was just 2 people basically, the 2 major contenders, Ossoff and Perdue, and there was some hope that Ossoff could win outright. He didn't, and Perdue actually has the lead, and his lead for a long time was above 50%. But as those votes in Atlanta are coming in and being counted, Perdue is now. Not that he's lost the lead, he still leads, but he's dropped under 50% and now definitively so they will be going to a runoff. So that's gonna be 2 runoffs. As I said this morning, rebellionpact.com/join, because I guarantee you will run much more vicious ads than any other Democrat. We will be running them against Republicans, against Perdue and Loeffler. I don't know if the Democrats are gonna continue being the weak party that they are, but we're not gonna stand for it. Perdue is a crook and Loeffler is an even bigger crook. And we're gonna run ads telling people what kind of criminals they are. And if they still wanna vote for them, okay, well, it's possible. Trump voters will vote for anything, right? But at least you gotta let them know, and that's the #1 problem with Democrats. So Florida's the best example. We talked about it right after the election. In Florida, $15 minimum wage ballot measure passed by 22 points at least. Joe Biden lost the state by 3 points. Joe Biden is theoretically in favor of $15 minimum wage. That's a 25-point gap. Why? Why is there that gap? Because Biden never ran on $15 minimum wage. He never told people that he's in favor of $15 minimum wage. It might be because he's not actually in favor of it and he was just playing along to pretend to get progressives in his camp.
But if he actually means it and he's not a liar, then he sucks at politics. They all do. We'll get back to that later in the program too, with Claire McCaskill and the clown car at MSNBC. But if they're not going to tell people that the Republicans they're running against are criminals, we will.
So just to give you some historical context for that race, so Republicans have won every single statewide runoff vote in Georgia history, a string that started in 1992 when Republican challenger Paul Coverdale notched a narrow win over Democratic US Senator Fowler, but Democrats aim to snap that streak next year, fueled by a surge of new voters. So just historical context doesn't necessarily mean that Ossoff doesn't have a chance. Ossoff forced the runoff vote in nail-biting fashion. Purdue built a significant cushion in rural and exurban parts of the state, but Ossoff's strength in the suburbs cut into the margins. As absentee ballots from Democratic-leaning areas continue to be counted, Ossoff steadily brought Purdue under the 50% threshold. So that's why they're, as Cenk mentioned, going to have the runoff race.
Yeah, look, the reason I mentioned Rebellion PAC here, because there was two reasons that it was formed. One is to fight for progressives, which almost no one else was doing. Now, by the way, the battle has been joined. Just Democrats PAC is doing a great job on that, and some other PACs as well. But still, there needs to be a lot more in that direction, and before nothing existed. The second reason is because Democrats run ads that are way too soft, right? So Ossoff did better at the very end of the election. He had that great moment in the debate where actually he did call Purdue a crook, and it shook Purdue so much he didn't show up to the last debate. Now, if he'd been doing that all along in all of his elections in Georgia, he would have been far better off. If you don't remember, the first time he ran in a special election for the House a couple of years back, right early on in the Trump administration, his themes were kindness and civility and humility. That's not how you win elections. And if Donald Trump hasn't proved that to you yet, with winning miraculously in 2016 and miraculously being this close in 2020, I don't know when it's ever going to get through to Democrats. So step aside, Butch. We got this going forward. So my number one frustration in American politics actually isn't about Trump. I'll never let this go. The fact that Democrats have now lost 3 major elections to Rick Scott, who is the current senator from Florida, who committed the largest Medicare fraud in history.
Yep.
How do you lose to that guy? How do you lose to that guy? And it's because Democrats are the softest, weakest party you've ever seen. Step aside, Butch, we got it, okay? I don't care to support the Democratic nominees, they are who they are, okay? But the Republicans, we're gonna come for you. And if you don't like it, you can cry all day long.
Why don't we take our first break? When we come back, we'll have some more updates on the election, including how the Department of Justice is getting involved to potentially help Donald Trump. It doesn't look like it's gonna work, but I'll give you the details.
All contributions that go to tyt.com/go help spread the progressive message. So we want to thank you guys. So here are the folks we're thanking today. Alan in California gave $127. You're going to get the t-shirt we press on. Dawn in Illinois, $10. Shirley in California, $10. King in Minnesota, $15. And Pauline in Minnesota, $50. You guys are the best. We're not powered by right-wing billionaires. We're powered by you guys, whether it's $3, $5, or $1,000. We love you. tyt.com/go.
When somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total, and that's the way it's got to be.
2020 is everything. Everything will be decided in 2020, and then we'll either have pessimism a long time, or we'll have optimism.
There is some good news when it comes to elections throughout the country, especially for progressives.
He's struggling in polls. He's trailing Joe Biden in many of these battleground states. And he knows that if he makes it difficult for voters to cast their ballots, especially as we're dealing with this pandemic, well, maybe it'll give him an edge over Biden.
We need to get rid of these people who are in office, who enable these systems that continue to oppress us. Start using your votes and your dollars for the people who want to preserve your community and your humanity.
Defiance is what you need in order to fight for what you know is right. The fight never ends.
Progressive candidates come on this show, we help them, and they've at least got a fighter's chance.
Expand the squad.
Here we go, Squad 2.0. Corey Bush, Jamal Bowman.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
This time, it's real. If he wins another term, God knows what he'll do to our government, our democracy, and our way of life.
We need solidarity, and it begins with you.
Who's gonna fix it? Who's gonna fix it? Goddamn right. So this is what we call Rebel Headquarters. You guys built it, so we started putting your names all over the place. That's through all of our different campaigns, including the one now, tyt.com/go. I see your names everywhere I go. For example, we got this mic number 4, named Just Sion Jang, like Just Saying Jang. Brian Smith donated for this one. Thank you, Brian, I appreciate it. And then as we were about to shoot this, I noticed another mic with another label. I was like, oh, I haven't seen this. Hey, wait a minute, that's my mic, Jang's mic. Mic 2, the Tom Wirtz Mostly Harmless microphone. I think it's better than Mostly Harmless, and thank you, Tom, I appreciate it. And then I looked down and I was like, oh right, the triptych desk. So we've talked about this a bunch of times. Adam West named this in one of our previous campaigns. So once you name it, it stays on for a long, long time. There's the Stephen Perla conference room where we do all of our meetings. That's from a long time ago, another campaign that we did. I actually love seeing it because it reminds me of who we do the show for. It's of the people, by the people, for the people. We're not playing. When we tell you go to tyt.com/go and be part of the Young Turks, you most certainly are. But wait, I'm not done yet. And then I'm looking down and I see this. I'm like, oh right. I haven't put this one up yet and I'm going to. I don't know if you can read it, but it says Kelly from Texas. And this one is going up in my house. In the room that I broadcast from, that basically, what did I say there, 7 months? Kelly, as part of this campaign, gave a generous contribution, and you can see what you can name at tyt.com/presson. And Kelly named my room. So I'm gonna go put her name in this gold plaque. I don't know that it's made out of actual gold. I hope we didn't spend the money on that. And we're gonna put it on the wall along with the donor wall that's got all the folks who gave over $1,000. So you guys are amazing. I'm hokey, but I love doing this show with you guys. All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. I want to check in on our thermometer here. It's so important to get the message out and do it in an aggressive way, as you've seen us do all week. So we really, really appreciate you guys making that possible. That's at tyt.com/go. And for let's take a quick look at where we are now. We're at 42,714. We're trying to get to 200,000 this month. And don't worry about the 200,000 number. Every dollar makes a giant difference, okay? Because I read your names and you're all from all over the country, all over the world. And every time I see those names, I think, what an amazing, wonderful community that built this show and this network. So thank you guys, and if you can keep it going, that would be amazing, especially in these important times. All right, speaking of you guys, let me go to the member section. Salty Bird asks, but why the hurry? The law allows ample time for counting for obvious reasons. We're just a bit spoiled by using digital voting, but paper trail is safer. So I agree with you, and under normal circumstances, who cares? Like in 2000, I was like, what's all the panic about? Let's just take our time and vote. Now, the difference is the longer it takes, the more the right wing mobilizes. And they mobilize in terms of media, propaganda, but honestly, in the streets too. And if they can create enough trouble and people start worrying about their safety, I'm worried that they're going to stop counting. And that's what happened with the Brooke Brothers mob in Miami down in 2000. So Roger Stone's done this before. And by the way, Roger Stone talked about, here, Jess says, my gut tells me that Roger Stone probably has a hand in these mobs attempting intimidation. We don't know that, but I do know that before the election, about a week or so before the election, Roger Stone started talking about, the ballots in Nevada can't be trusted. And so maybe we should send people to Nevada, right? And then the very next day, Trump came out and said, I don't trust the governor of Nevada. There's something we should do about that. So that's brewing right now as we speak. That's brewing. That's some of the stories we're sharing with you guys today. So that's why I'd like to get to a resolution. But under no circumstances, whether Biden's winning, losing, or anything like that, would I ever be in favor of not counting all the votes. Rainbow Bright says Democrats are worried about using the word socialism while police officers are saying people need a bullet in their head and they wonder why they lost seats. See, the thing is, when you say that, mainstream Democrats, establishment Democrats look at that and go, well, you see, that's why they're so extreme and that's why they're gonna lose and they're gonna lose America and the voters are not gonna be in favor of that. Wait, we just had the most extreme guy we've ever seen in our lifetimes for the last 5 years, and it's 52-48, not even 52-48. The latest numbers are Biden has a 2.7% lead. Let's note for the record that it's insane that we live in a democracy where the person who gets the most votes doesn't automatically win. If it was just popular vote, this election would have been called pretty much instantly on Tuesday night. He's leading by nearly 4 million votes. But at the end of the day, it is an electoral college. And so those establishment Democrats say, oh, no. We need to get these Republicans and if Trump is extreme enough, he won't get them. Wrong, he did get them. And he got enough independents to make this close enough where it hasn't been called. So that's the country we live in and we all gotta get used to it. And for those of you who are signing up, we love you guys, both on YouTube, you could hit the join button below, on Twitch and everywhere else, tyt.com/join. We're putting your names in the ticker below, so check that out, and we deeply appreciate it. Anna, go ahead.
All right, well, the Department of Justice is planning on assisting Donald Trump in intimidating, basically, people counting the ballots right now. These are individuals who are working at these polling locations. They're already dealing with Trump supporters, showing up armed in many cases in an attempt to get them to either stop the count or do whatever's necessary to give Donald Trump an advantage in this election. Now the Justice Department has told federal prosecutors in an email early on Wednesday that the law allowed them to send armed federal officers to ballot counting locations around the country to investigate potential voter fraud. Now, turns out that the law actually prohibits that from happening, prohibits armed federal officers from showing up to the polls on election day. But the Department of Justice is arguing that it only has to do with the day of the election, not what follows the day of the election. And as you guys know, this is an unprecedented election as a result of the pandemic and the influx of mail-in ballots. A top official told prosecutors that the department interpreted the statute to mean that they could send armed federal officers to polling stations and locations where ballots were being counted anytime after election day. Here's what the DOJ email read. The statute does not prevent armed federal law enforcement persons. By the way, let's stop for a second. Why do you need to send armed federal cops, officers, to the ballot counting locations? Why do they need to be armed? It's so obvious that it's meant to intimidate them as they're just trying to do their jobs, as they're trying to make sure that every ballot is counted. You have poll watchers at these locations, by the way, both Democratic and Republican poll watchers. So why do you need to send the feds in who are heavily armed? It makes absolutely no sense. It's very clear what their intention is. Cenk.
Yeah, Don Jr. tweeted a while ago that they need to go to war. Okay, so the president's son's talking about war. The attorney general's talking about sending in armed agents in these areas where there's vote counts. There's armed Trump supporters going to ballot counting areas like in Arizona. So Steve Bannon is calling for even greater violence. And so this is exactly the brown shirts we told you about, that if things are close, they're gonna just try to seize power with actual weapons. And the federal agents have no business in those state counting areas, none whatsoever. And remember, as I just said during the live show, Roger Stone said before the election, we should seize the ballots in Nevada. And if you're wondering why Nevada, why not all the other swing states? Because Nevada's one of the rare swing states that has a Democratic governor and Democratic legislature. So in Pennsylvania, maybe they could gum things up with the Republican legislature, even though they have a Democratic governor. Same in North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin. But in Nevada, it's just Democrats. So they're like, well, we can't cheat in any other way. So maybe we should do that. The very next day, Trump says, I'm concerned about the governor of Nevada. And now these guys are all mobilizing. And it's one thing when it's like randos, it's another thing when it's white supremacist militia, and so. But the worst case scenario is the federal government going, we lost, but we're not leaving, and we're sending armed federal agents to seize those votes. They haven't done it yet, but he put out a memo saying we could.
No, it's absolutely insane. And I just want to reiterate what I was saying on the show yesterday. All of these right wingers who wear flag hats or they, get angry at protesters who decide to kneel during the national anthem in order to raise awareness and do something about police brutality. All of those right wingers are using the flag as a prop, as a cheap prop. They do not care about what this country is supposed to stand for. They don't care about our democracy. They don't care about any of that. They have only hid behind the flag as alleged patriots when in reality, they hate everything that this country is supposed to represent. They hate our democratic process, they hate our Constitution. They want to just install whoever they want into office, regardless of what the majority of the American people want, and it's absolutely hideous.
Yeah, I gotta jump in and say two more things, Anna. One is, you should be furious at the rest of the media. Why? Because they told you for all these years, my whole life, they've been telling me, no, there's all these reasonable Republicans. No, most of the Republican Party is just wonderfully moderate and reasonable. Yes, from time to time, there's these extremists that pop up and the Tea Party, et cetera. But God, no, we just found out 93% of Republicans voted for Donald Trump. They saw all of the bad. It wasn't 2016 where maybe you missed it. Yeah, Trump's a big celebrity and he said outrageous things in 2016. But if you're not knee deep in politics, maybe you missed it. Ain't nobody missed it by 2020. Nobody. Everybody in the country, everybody in the world knows who Donald Trump is, who his supporters, and all of these things. And the media still lies to you that there's reasonable Republicans. No, they're all in on this. They're all in on this. And so why do you let the media lie to you? No, the facts are super clear. So where are the reasonable Republicans? If they exist, why aren't they out right now going, what are you guys doing? No, you don't stand for me going to a place with your guns and trying to intimidate and threaten people who are counting the votes. No, you don't stand for me saying that we shouldn't count all the votes. Where are you guys? I don't see him on Twitter. I don't see him on TV. I don't see him anywhere, except MSNBC that takes the tiny amount of Republican elites and makes them seem like they're half the party. I saw the vote count. They're not half the party. They're 7% of the party. 93%'s like, yes, militias, violence, fascism. I'm here for it. That's just stone cold reality. Everything else is political correctness.
Also, there is a Trump advisor, Harlan Hill, who came up with another plan to essentially stop counting the ballots. So here's his tweet saying, Republican groups should start busing Trump supporters to Philly, Phoenix, and Detroit, make them feel our level of pissed off. Oh, that's fascinating, because if I can recall, there were all these accusations in regard to the BLM protests and how they were sending buses full of people to essentially serve as agitators in these protests. They always project. Anytime they accuse the left or anytime they accuse their political opponents of doing something, understand that they are giving themselves away. They are giving you the exact tactics that they utilize in order to get an edge on any political issue that the country is going through in any given moment. These are the types of tricks that they play, and every once in a while they make the mistake of saying the quiet parts out loud.
Yeah, and you remember Trump said that there was a plane full of Antifa people who were going to Washington, D.C. Funny enough, they never showed up. Those magical plane full of Antifa never landed anywhere. But he just throws out these charges, and then they go, "Oh, the planes and the buses full of Antifa and protesters." Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, we're lying about that. But hey, let's do it right now. What we said was so heinous and unbelievable. Buses full of Antifa people. No, buses full of us, potentially armed. Wonderful, right? They don't care about hypocrisy, and 93% of Republican voters said yes. And so, look here, I'll give you another case of hypocrisy. Imagine if Obama was in a super close election and he said, well, I'm gonna have my Attorney General, Eric Holder, send a memo to the state saying, I might be sending armed federal agents to your voting centers. What would the right wing have done? Everybody knows it. You don't have to be a progressive. You don't even have to be a moderate. Even if you're MAGA, you know what the right wing would have done. Obama, jackbooted thugs sending armed federal agents. They're gonna steal the vote. They're gonna put us in FEMA camps. No, that's it. I'm standing up to tyranny. I'm standing up to tyranny. That's why I got Second Amendment rights. Now Trump is threatening to do it, and they're like, "Attaboy, we love jackbooted thugs and we love tyranny." So no logic, no rationality, and 93% of Republican voters and 48% of the country says hell yeah.
All right, we need to take another break. When we come back from the break, we are gonna discuss Steve Bannon and his recent statements on Anthony Fauci. You don't wanna miss that. We have the details on that and more when we return.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not gonna wanna lose, and he's gonna run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
No, but
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? They're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Iadarola.
You're doing a show that's blowing the doors off everybody.
Young Turks is the largest online news network, not a big deal. We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities. We're so sick of this corruption. We're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Fourth day on Occupy Wall Street. Last night we launched Wolfpack. It's us pushing our ideas out there, trying to help the country in every way that we can, trying to make this place just a little bit better. Reporting from the Hillary-Bernie debate, I gotta be honest, you know what we do, we cover it for real. For us, this system isn't working. Free and fair elections.
And when he told the cops that day when they came to drag her away, and he said, if you're gonna chain her, you're gonna chain me. If you're gonna arrest her, you're gonna arrest me.
Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
All right, back on the Young Turks. First of all, I want to tell you about something positive you can do for the environment. It's called Plant Your Change. And what you do is if you sign up with your credit card or debit card, if you want to, you could round up to the nearest dollar for all your purchases. And every time you round up, they plant a whole new tree, okay? So it's at tyt.com/trees. Get the information on that from that URL, and then see if you'd like to participate. It's a great program. It kind of makes you feel great every time you buy something. So that's a good thing, and you are out there, plant the trees, and you are saving the planet that way. Now I want to give you a small update. Cumberland County, Pennsylvania came in with votes. Joe Biden won 70% of those votes. So now Trump's lead in Pennsylvania is down to less than 80,000 votes. It's 1.2% with 7% still left to report. This is why people thought that Biden was going to win Pennsylvania, and a lot of people think he's going to win it comfortably because the votes that are left are coming in very heavily in favor of Joe Biden.
Stop the count. Stop the count.
Of course, that's why they want to stop the count.
Yeah. I don't want to stop the count. That's what Trump supporters are saying.
Of course, of course. Okay, so let me read a couple of these for you guys. JJ writes in from the member section. Any chance of faithless electors being an issue if Biden is called the winner? Well, ask and ye shall receive. We're going to have Larry Lessig on as a guest tomorrow, and he's going to explain that issue and more. One of the top law professors in the country, and this is his exact expertise. So don't miss that on the Young Turks tomorrow. You know, interviews are at 5:30 p.m. And then the regular shows at 6 o'clock. Pale Blue Dot says you can bet that any group who has patriot in their name doesn't believe at all in what America actually stands for. Isn't that sad? Yeah, I mean, they took the word patriot and turned it into the exact opposite, as you're about to see in a clip we're gonna share with you. But last one's from Super Chat. Zoltan Hall says, why are the same people who kept saying all lives matter now don't believe that all votes matter? It's an excellent question. Thank you for sharing it, Zoltan. Love doing the show with you guys. tyt.com/join to become a member, and tyt.com/go to help in our fundraising operation for this year. Makes all the difference, and that's why we've been able to keep everyone on staff through coronavirus times. All right, thank you guys. All right, Anna, what's next?
Former Trump aide Steve Bannon was talking about the election on his podcast as if Donald Trump has already won the election, which of course is not the case. There are many states that haven't finished tabulating all the ballots, and based on the votes that are coming in, it does look like Biden has a very good shot at winning. Now, the heart of this story isn't even about the election. It's about what Steve Bannon would like Donald Trump to do in his second term. And what he's advocating for is clearly violence. It is inciting violence. And in the clip that you're about to watch, he targets Christopher Wray, who is the head of the FBI, and Anthony Fauci, who has tried to do the right thing in keeping people safe in the middle of this pandemic. Let's watch.
Second term kicks off with firing Wray, firing Fauci. Now, I actually want to go a step farther, but I realize the president is a kind-hearted man and a good man. I'd actually like to go back to the old times of Tudor England. I'd put the heads on pikes, right? I'd put them at the two corners of the White House as a warning to federal bureaucrats. You either get with the program or you're gone. Time to stop playing games. Blow it all out. Put Rick Grinnell today as the interim head of the FBI. That'll light them up, right?
You know what, Steve? Just yesterday, there was the anniversary of the hanging of 2 Tories in Philadelphia. These were Quaker businessmen who had cohabitated, if you will, with the British while they were occupying Philadelphia. These people were hung. This is what we used to do to traitors.
That's how you won the revolution. Nobody wants to talk about it. Revolution wasn't some sort of garden party, right? It was not. It was a civil war. It was a civil war.
So Steve Bannon sitting there with his bloated face talking about revolutions and how it's not a garden party. Let me just say, we all know why right-wingers hate Anthony Fauci so much. In reality, they should be angry at the fact that Donald Trump responded so poorly to the pandemic that more than 225,000 Americans are dead as a result. We're recording record numbers of Americans contracting the virus. I mean, it has been a complete and utter disaster in this country. When it comes to Christopher Wray and the FBI have actually done a decent job in foiling terrorist plots by right-wing gang members in this country. So I'm sure the right-wingers like Steve Bannon aren't too happy about that. But the real issue is that the FBI refused to go along with Donald Trump's accusations about criminality associated with the Bidens. He also refused to regurgitate this talking point about how there's election meddling by foreign countries with the intention of helping Joe Biden win the election. And so Christopher Wray is now one of the latest targets for the Trump administration and Trump cronies.
So putting heads on a stick, that's beheadings. First of all, there you go. That's the American Taliban right there, calling for beheadings. And it's not remotely a hyperbole. You saw for yourself right there. And then talking about hanging their opponents. So I assume that Bannon will be arrested within the hour for a couple of reasons. Number one, you can't threaten to behead the FBI director and a random doctor that works to try to help diseases or for any reason, even if he was a private citizen, but that's a guy inside the government. That's wildly illegal. So him and his co-hosts should obviously be arrested. They didn't say, oh, it's in a political context. It is no. They just said, that's it. Let's go get him. And they said, look, you saw it there. He said the revolution was not a garden party. It was physical, etc. So it's not like it's a metaphor. He's saying actively that it is not a metaphor, that it was not a garden party. We need to actually go and do these things. And so the second reason he should be arrested within the hour is he's on parole. He was arrested for fraud. He was ripping off his own viewers and pocketing some of the money according to the charges. And now he's still out on the streets and now threatening to behead people. Okay, guys, look, again, this is a thing that no one can dispute. If there was a radical Muslim inside the country doing a media show, going around saying, hey, maybe we should, not maybe, we should behead the head of the FBI. Does anybody think he wouldn't be arrested within the hour? Does anybody think he shouldn't be arrested within the hour? Of course he should be arrested. Imagine if an Antifa guy said, hey, we're gonna behead Scott Atlas, who is another doctor we don't agree with in the administration. Or Don Trump Jr. I mean, these are insane, that's insane talk. Of course they'd be arrested. Why aren't right-wingers who are on air calling for people to do extreme violence? Well, and by the way, there's a hanging. If you're doing hangings in a war, I guess that's called, that's got a certain name. If hangings in America had another name, it's called lynchings. So this is, I can't, what is happening to this country?
No, it's even, so.
And so, Anna, sorry, one more irony I gotta point out. Wait, why do you need a revolution? You're in charge now, and I thought you said you were gonna win. So if you're gonna win, why do you need an armed revolution? Oh, so you know you're going to lose. So don't pretend otherwise.
No, let me just say, In 2016, when it became very clear that Donald Trump was gonna win, we were upset here. And we were upset for good reason. Not because our ideology didn't win, but because Donald Trump is as incompetent as we expected, but far more dangerous than we even expected on that night. And so it meant that this country was gonna deal with an incredibly tumultuous first term with Trump. And I think that it all played out the way that we expected, and actually far worse than we expected. I give you that because the right wing kept talking about how we had an election night meltdown. Now compare our so-called election night meltdown to this. You have Steve Bannon talking about putting people's heads on a pike. You also have Steve Bannon who said punk Twitter boss Jack Dorsey should be arrested for taking down the president. Now understand that the only thing that Twitter has done, well, aside from the New York Post decision that they made, which I did not agree with, but in the case of Donald Trump specifically, the only thing that they've done is fact check him when he's intentionally spreading disinformation about the election. And Steve Bannon, who's on the right, who purportedly believes in deregulation of companies, right? Don't get the government involved in regulating companies at all. Now all of a sudden says Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, should be arrested.
Yeah, so let's compare meltdowns. When they're losing, they say let's start beheadings and hangings. Yeah, that sounds like a meltdown. That sounds like an actual meltdown.
Let's completely dismantle our democratic process and stop counting votes.
Yeah, let's end democracy, commit a revolution against America, and start beheading our political opponents. Okay, on election night in 2016, what did we do? Did we say it doesn't count? Trump's not president? No, we immediately acknowledged that Trump was president. Did we say don't count the votes? Nope, nobody ever said any of that. Did we say, okay, we don't believe in democracy anymore? Nope. But we did get angry at the Democratic Party for blowing it against Donald Trump. And out of that, what I told you that night and what rose out of it became the Justice Democrats. And so we said we are going to do a political solution with our anger and frustration because we're Americans, and that's how this system works. And we did a political solution to try to take over the Democratic Party. Now there are 10 Justice Democrats inside Congress 4 short years later. That's how you do things in America. It's okay to get angry and frustrated, but you don't grab your gun, you don't grab your machete, you don't grab your rope. You go get organized, you do activism, and you create things that are a force of nature for a political revolution, not for a physical, violent revolution where you just decapitate your enemies. If that's not the difference between the right wing and the left wing, I don't know what is. We are constructive and we have done it within the American system. As you just heard it from them, they hate America. And if things don't go their way, they want a physical, violent revolution against America, not against either one of the parties or the establishment or even the current system. They want a revolution against America where we don't do democracy, we do violent overthrows and beheading of political opponents. So that's the right wing in this country. If every right winger does not denounce Steve Bannon immediately, according to right wing logic, they all agree with Steve Bannon. So, and by the way, Trump has said, has called for violence dozens of times at his rallies. We can go on, and 93% of Republicans voted for him. So you have your answer on who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, and who the real patriots are in this country who believe in America, and who the actual political traitors are. And even though they are ideological traitors to this country, we would never wish that there would be something physical done to them. Never, because we love America and know that you're supposed to handle things in a political way and not in that physical way.
Yeah, I mean, they accuse us of hating America when we critique the government and expect it to do better. They actually hate America because they hate what it's supposed to stand for. It's supposed to stand for democracy. It's supposed to stand for, actual freedom of speech, right? They're angry that Christopher Wray doesn't just regurgitate what they want Christopher Wray to regurgitate. And Christopher Wray is not some leftist, okay? It's the most ridiculous thing imaginable. And in regard to Twitter, they just see Twitter as their personal propaganda tool. And if Jack Dorsey has policies that prevent the spread of disinformation related to the election, Well, then he needs to be imprisoned. He needs to be imprisoned because he's not doing what the government wants it to do.
And these are from the advocates for free speech. He said things I don't like. Imprison him, imprison him. Oh, I want to be able to say racist things, and people don't like it when I say racist things. I'm still allowed to say it, but they don't like it. Oh, golly gee, I love free speech. No, you don't. You've never liked this country. So go live in a dictatorship somewhere else. Maybe Peter Thiel can buy you an island, the libertarian island you guys were all dreaming about and that he fantasized about. And you guys could go all live there and decapitate each other. I don't want you to do that either, okay? But leave us alone. We love this country and believe in it.
Yeah. Well, we have a few minutes left for the first hour, but I just want to let everyone know that normally we go to our members only post game after the first hour of the show. But today we're going to have 30 minutes of public content. So after this, there will be another 30 minutes of content for you. We have other stories that we really want to share with you. And then following that, we will have our members only post game. You can become a member by going to tyt.com/join. And Cenk, with a minute and a half left, do you have any maybe member comments you'd like to read?
Yeah, no, so we're putting more of the member comments and the new folks that sign up in the ticker below. Check that out because it is the Young Turks. But guys, I want to tell you about some of the stuff that's going to happen in the post game. Number one, we're going to talk about Claire McCaskill and Brian Williams and the infuriating comments they made on MSNBC as they're helping to back Republican propaganda. Theoretically, Democrats have MSNBC, certainly corporate Democrats do. But even that, they can't do it. Oh, well, we got to help Republicans. So it's so frustrating. We're going to keep, the reason we're extending free and live coverage for everyone is because there's constantly breaking news and we want to bring that to you. We want to bring you the vote counts as well. And on top of that, one of the other things I want to do when we come back is give you some of the demographics that voted in different directions for Trump and Biden. And there's some amazing numbers in there. So, and these things I'll never understand. Including, for example, 28% of LGBT Americans voted for Donald Trump. His policies are avowedly against you. They voted for him anyway. And it's not to blame that community. We'll give you more context as we go along. It's infuriating that people don't understand what this guy's actually about. We'll be right back. We are on to something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you that say no corporate backed money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats, we're gonna fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free healthcare for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single payer healthcare, debt-free college, and we are gonna get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're gonna do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's gonna stop with us. It's gonna stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Just Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a betting. Absolutely not.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here.
Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you.
I've been honest with him. Like, yeah, I was upset with you and I shouldn't have done it. But instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
Guys, not a big deal, but you're about to save the planet. So here's how it works. We're planting 10 trees for everyone who signs up at aspiration.com/TYT. Aspiration and TYT are doing this together. Do you have any idea what 10 trees do? Hold on, let me explain. First of all, one tree can provide a day's supply of oxygen for up to 4 people. I plant 10 trees, or you plant 10 trees by going to aspiration.com/TYT. That's 40 people. You're giving oxygen to 40 people. What are you gonna argue with that? You can't argue with that, but if you do, during 1 year, a mature tree will absorb more than 48 pounds of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and release oxygen in exchange. We capture the carbon dioxide, release the oxygen. Aspiration.com/TYT. You save money and you save the planet. What else do you want to do? Come on, aspiration.com/TYT. All right, not only that, you can plant a tree with every purchase once you're in Aspiration and you have an account. There's no way this is gonna get better. Oh my God, no deposits used for oil drills or pipelines. Oh my God, up to 10% cash back for socially conscious shopping. Hello. With Aspiration Spend and Save, you get the world's first cashback account that lets you track the impact of your spending, all managed through one intuitive app. Would a hero sign up for Aspiration through aspiration.com/TYT? I guess.
Today, terrible day for the internet, terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information, and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet. Back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Extended show today for you. We also have amazing updates for you guys, including Trump apparently beginning to threaten to run in 2024. So we will get to that in a minute. We also have the hilarious video of his preacher we still have to get to. There's so much to get to. So let's get started. Anna, I'm sorry, before we get, I knew there was a reason I was pausing. I wanted to give you the results because they've moved a tiny bit. And so Pennsylvania is now down to 1.1% lead for Trump, only 73,609 vote lead with a lot of votes outstanding. So it looks really good for Biden there. In Georgia, the lead for Trump has dropped to less than 0.1%, not less than 1%, less than 0.1%, and it is only 3,635 votes now. So given that the votes are coming in from very heavily Democratic areas, it looks like Biden will win Georgia. Either, and remember, Georgia can do it, Pennsylvania alone would do it, and then Nevada and Arizona together can put Biden over the top. And also remember, half the news organizations have already called Arizona and the other half have not. So, and in Nevada and Arizona, Biden continues to have a lead in Nevada of 0.9, which has actually gone up a little bit, in Arizona of 2 points, which is remained relatively stable through the days. So that's the latest on the results. Now let's give you the latest on the news.
All right. As we can see, Democrats performed poorly when it came to congressional races and Senate races. And so MSNBC had a grand old time having the types of vapid election discussions that you could expect it to have with a former failed Missouri Senator, Claire McCaskill, sharing her 2 cents. Let's hear what she had to say.
The Republican Party, I think, very adroitly adopted cultural issues as part of their main theme, whether you're talking guns or issues surrounding the right to abortion in this country, or things like gay marriage and the right for transsexuals and other people who we as a party have tried to, quote unquote, look after and make sure that they're treated fairly. As we circled those issues, we left some voters behind, and Republicans dove in with a vengeance and grabbed those voters. And you've seen this shift. You saw it in the South. I've seen it in the rural areas of my state. So we've got to get back to the meat and potatoes issues. We've got to get back to the issues where we are taking care of their families. And we also need to quit acting like we're smarter than everybody else, because we're not.
Well, at least she was honest in the very tail end of that statement where she says we're not smarter than anyone else. What I don't understand about her messaging there is she begins by talking about how Democrats need to focus on the culture war issues because they supposedly abandoned those issues. That's all the Democratic Party really seems to focus on, because it allows them to neglect the actual meat and potatoes issues that impact people's finances on a daily basis. So I don't know where she's going with that. I mean, she mentioned anti-abortion people. I mean, she mentioned the pro-gun agenda. So is she saying that Democrats need to move even further to the right and compete with Republicans on bringing in those voters? Really? Okay.
That's definitely what she's saying.
And one thing, I just want to remind everyone of how terrible Claire McCaskill is and why she lost her Senate race in Missouri. Here's a little reminder from Huffington Post. This headline really does summarize what her strategy is. Democrat Claire McCaskill clings to Trump on border security in bid to save her seat. So apparently moving further to the right in her Senate race certainly didn't help her. And I think AOC said it best when she tweeted this: "Why do we listen to people who lost elections as if they're experts in winning elections? McCaskill tried her approach. She ran as a caravan hysteria Dem and lost, while grassroots organizers won progressive measures in Missouri." Her language here shows how she took her base for granted.
So let me give even more context to that. So Claire McCaskill lost handily in that race in 2018 to keep her Senate seat in Missouri. On that same election night, in that same state, they had a ballot measure for increasing the minimum wage. It won with 62% of the vote. Crushed, absolutely crushed. So Claire McCaskill ran to the right and towards Republicans. Oh, please, I love border walls too. And all the voters who like border walls voted for the Republican. Why would they vote for the Democrat who's Johnny come lately trying to tell them about how they like border walls? They don't believe you, and if they like border walls, they vote for the other guy. He's 1,000% in favor of it. Instead, she could not get people to come out and vote for her that wanted to increase the minimum wage. If she had adopted that progressive stance, she had a shot at getting 62% of the voters. Imagine if she had said the entire campaign, I'm for higher wages, he's for lower wages. I'm for higher wages, he's for lower wages. Already 62% of the state apparently agreed with her, and she never even made that case. Imagine if she adopted that case. Nope. I don't want to win. I just want to go in this direction. So why? Is it that she actually doesn't want to win? No. It's that she thinks, and almost every major Democrat in Washington thinks, there's only one key to winning: pleasing the donors. If you have more money, then you're going to win the election. By the way, did she have more money than Josh Hawley? A ton more. I think she outraised him by nearly 3 to 1. So what happened? You kiss all of the donors' asses, not allowed on other media. You can't say the obvious truth about Claire McCaskill. And so after you tried to, curry favor with the donors, and you got all those, I think she raised like over $30 million. You got all their money, and you spent it trying to be a Republican, and they voted for the Republican. I mean, if that's not the definition of stupid, all right, I know you're not allowed to say things like that. That is very wrong. You have to pretend that Claire McCaskill is smart, respected. Why? MSNBC sees how she absolutely bungled that race, and her losing strategy was to go further right wing, and they're like, love it, we're here for it. They hired her and gave her a giant salary to come spout this nonsense on television. And MSNBC in Washington world is considered the progressive channel. Oh, come on. All right, we got more on that in a second. But I can't let Claire McCaskill go, that clip go without noting. So what are we supposed to do, Claire? We're supposed to abandon the LGBT community. We're supposed to abandon our core voters. And by the way, our fellow Americans. I mean, look at how, even if you thought it was a smart political strategy, which she single-handedly proved it wasn't. But even if you thought it was, so we're supposed to be so callous and immoral and say, we don't care about black people. We don't care about minorities. We don't care about gay people. We don't care about any of those communities. Let's go back to guns. I mean, my God, she mentioned abortion. What do you want us to do? That is the epitome of how both deeply immoral and unintelligent they are. The country is 70% pro-choice. She's like, let's run towards the 30%. If I don't call her stupid, I wouldn't be doing my job. I would be being dishonest with you. I wouldn't be delivering the actual news to you. How do you think that because now she's not even talking about Missouri. She's talking about the national election. How do you think running towards 30% instead of 70%, and at 30% that the Republican Party has 100% locked up? You think they're gonna vote for Democrats? How, come on, how could anybody be that stupid? They pay her tons and tons of money to do propaganda like that, not on Fox News, not on CNN, but on MSNBC. But now the immoral part. So all the women out there, by the way, a majority of voters, and Biden won a majority of women, Trump won a slight majority of men. Her brilliant political strategy is, let's betray all of our female voters and all the women in this country, and let's run towards an anti-choice ideology.
No, there's more. The Democratic Party is in for a world of trouble because they have latched on to culture war issues in an effort to avoid talking about meat and potatoes. I think that that's just demonstrably true. And look, honestly, in this election, the general election, we've seen an increase in black men who have voted for Donald Trump, 18%, and even black women who have voted for Trump, 8%. Because the Democratic Party loves to pretend like they're gonna do something for minorities, for the black community, but over and over again, they have taken that vote for granted. And I think it's really starting to hurt them now. I mean, you're talking about Joe Biden, who has locked away an entire generation of black men with the crime bill. And then honestly, on the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has incredibly racist rhetoric. There's no question about that. But he can very successfully use the talking point of how he did criminal justice reform. Now, at the same time, since the Democrats have focused so much on the culture war issues, you should keep in mind that this statement from Abigail Spanberger is gonna be an interesting foreshadowing of how Democrats are gonna campaign moving forward. Here's what Spanberger had to say on the Democratic caucus call. She said, "We lost races we shouldn't have lost. So far, so good, I agree. But here's her takeaway. Defund police almost cost me my race because of an attack ad. Don't say socialism ever again. Need to get back to the basics." And apparently she was yelling on the call. That is her takeaway from this election.
Yeah, okay, and so why are we the only ones saying obvious things? Why isn't anyone else on cable news, New York Times, Washington Post, you name it? Why aren't they saying things like, wait, Claire McCaskill, you lost your race by 6 points when you could have won it apparently by a giant margin on issues like minimum wage, and there's many more where that came from. No, they think they could present her as a goddess of political wisdom. And then on Spanberger, et cetera. So they tell us, no, you have to unify with her position. And if you don't, you're hurting unity within the Democratic Party and you're hurting the Democratic Party. Wait a minute, why do we have to unify around her right-wing positions within the Democratic Party? Why shouldn't she unify around our positions, the progressive positions within the party that's supposed to be progressive? And she says, well, my political acumen tells me that going right wing helps us win. Well, that's not remotely true. We have the facts to prove it. You lost 1,000 seats with that strategy during the Obama years. So there's no political reality to that. I keep coming back to the media, guys. because remember CNN put her in a group of, they created a squad that doesn't exist. And they said, oh, okay, they're now the kick-ass squad. And they celebrated them. The actual just Democrats, no good. But the kick-ass squad, they want to go right wing. Yes, Democratic Party, you want to go right wing. And the other problem with it is a giant long-term problem. When you rhetorically agree with the Republican Party for the last 20 to 40 years, guess what happens? The country starts to believe the Republican Party is right, whether they actually are or not. So after you lose an election where you didn't make your own case, again, Florida's a perfect example. Joe Biden loses it by 3 points, minimum wage ballot measure wins by 22 points. You didn't make your own case and you lost Florida because of it. They turn around and go, no, we should have gone more right wing. And I'm supposed to unify around that? No deal, no deal, no deal at all. If Spanberger and the corporate Democrats want to go join their Republican buddies, have at it, Hoss. I'm not unifying around positions I don't agree with, that I think is toxic, and that I think helps the Republican Party. Isn't it amazing that the media never says that the party on the left should unite around positions on the left? They all insist that we must unify the Democratic Party around right-wing positions, and don't even notice the irony. So it's not just Trump world. Mainstream media and corporate Democrats also live in an alternative reality with alternative facts.
I mean, isn't that what we got in this race between Biden and Trump? I mean, Biden, with the assistance from the Lincoln Project, made sure to, when it was convenient, mention the $15 minimum wage. But the majority of his messaging had to do with, I'm gonna unite the country. Yes, these QAnon lunatics are terrifying, but it's okay. Yes, these people are trying to steal the election and claim that there's election fraud, or they're trying to dismantle the post office. These people are awful, but I'm here to unite the country. And look, I have to be honest with you, the moralizing that happens with the Democratic Party is not appealing to anyone. Tisk tisk, we must be better than this. We go high when they go low. That messaging is not appealing. What people want right now is not to be judged based on what their behavior is. They want to be able to feed their families. And so get rid of the labels, right? They're obsessed with the word socialism. Just talk about the need for healthcare. That is an incredibly popular topic. Talk about the need for a living wage. But they're unwilling to do it because the donor class doesn't want it. The fine people over at the Lincoln Project don't want it. And so Biden, listening to them, taking their advice and having a moderate centrist message has led to this insanely close election, which is terrifying. But at the same time, the takeaway from Democrats has been, no, it's just that we move too far to the left. We need to move further to the right. And by the way, I'm not the only one saying that the Lincoln Project had a lot of influence on the Biden campaign. Here's more commentary from MSNBC on that very issue. Let's watch.
Meantime, there's Michael Steele, who is blameless in this conversation because in your wallet, you've got a Republican National Committee membership card, probably next to your Blockbuster card, and you already now have on your resume the Lincoln Project, one of several groups of lapsed, reformed, in some cases still are Republicans who helped make this race what it is and what it may be if and when we get over 270. So Michael, take a well-deserved victory lap on the part of all these former leaders and strategists who got together and worked to push the other side.
This election should have been a layup for Biden. It was not. We still don't know what the results of the election is, and we are dealing with razor thin margins, and that is terrifying. Yeah. Again, look at the demographics. Look at how Biden actually increased his popularity and support from minority groups. It's unbelievable, and
Trump did.
I'm sorry, Trump did. I apologize. I misspoke, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Cenk, take it away.
Okay, victory lap. 93% of Republicans voted for Donald Trump. Where's the victory lap? Lincoln Project and all this attempts to go further right wing and to bring John Kasich into your convention, to bring dozens of Republicans into your convention, have more Republicans at your convention than progressives, and it was supposed to take away enough Republican votes that it was going to be, you're going to be really surprised at how many Republicans don't vote for Trump. And at the time, Trump's popularity among Republicans had dipped to under 90% for the first time in a long time. It rose to 93%. Victory lap. No, but that's not news, that's propaganda. And that's not propaganda on behalf of Republicans on Fox News. That's propaganda on behalf of Republicans on MSNBC. And then Washington looks at MSNBC and goes, what a progressive channel. Everybody agrees, even the left wing agrees, Republicans are awesome and they should take a victory lap for Biden's win. And finally, I looked it up. McCaskill outraised Hawley by 4-1 and lost anyway.
Whoa.
And you know what her voting record was? She voted with the Republicans 47% of the time. What's the point of a Democratic senator if they're gonna vote with Republicans half the time anyway, and then gonna lose to a Republican by trying to be a Republican?
No, we don't have a party that represents us. And if my predictions end up being correct, and I think we have plenty of evidence to point to indicating that I am correct, the Democratic Party is essentially going to become the party of Bush era Republicans. And I have no interest being associated with that. I have no interest in supporting that. I have no interest in that, period. I was young, but I remember the Bush years very clearly. And the idea of the Democratic Party essentially just morphing into that absolutely disgusts me.
Nicole Wallace, one of the top anchors now on MSNBC, did communications for George W. Bush. And they celebrate her. Celebrate, yes! Oh my God, the Republicans are the best. And we got one of them on our channel. Oh my God, we're so Republican. I mean, we're the left-wing channel. Okay, yeah. Oh, by the way, the guy who does the morning show is a former Republican legislator. That's okay, got mad at Trump. They used to be best friends. If you remember, he helped Trump get elected in 2016 on MSNBC. Then they had a personal fight, and now he's against Trump, but does right-wing framing on every issue anyway. We're the left-wing channel, DC, and DC goes, oh, they're so left-wing. And then they wonder why young people are repelled by traditional media in Washington. All right, let's go to the next story, because wait till you get a load of the next right-wing strategy.
Yeah, this is actually very disastrous for progressives and anyone who was hoping that Biden might do the right thing. So now that it's become clear that it's likely that Republicans will continue to control the Senate, there's a huge question mark as to who Biden will choose in his cabinet. Now, we had previously shared a story about how Bernie Sanders was hoping to be the labor secretary in a Biden cabinet. And now it looks as though McConnell is gonna have undue influence over Biden's decisions here. So apparently, according to Axios, a source close to McConnell tells Axios a Republican Senate would work with Biden on centrist nominees, but no radical progressives or ones who are controversial with conservatives.
Oh, I see. So McConnell says, I'd like veto power over your cabinet picks. And now you could say this is absurd. None of this is gonna happen if it was an actual progressive who would want. Imagine McConnell telling Bernie Sanders who's gonna be in his cabinet. But it's Joe Biden. He loves making deals with McConnell. So maybe he'll hand the cabinet over to McConnell. There's actually a decent chance of that. Let's give you more details, and I'll tell you who I think is actually behind this story.
So it gives Biden a ready excuse, and of course he's gonna use this excuse to reject left of center candidates like Senators Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, who have the enthusiastic backing of progressives. Now, there were specific names mentioned here, and this is what will blow your mind. So when you think of someone like Susan Rice, do you think of a progressive?
Yeah.
No, you don't. But for a McConnell-run Senate, Susan Rice is just far off to the left. Too much. So Susan Rice is also now unlikely to be chosen as Secretary of State due to how she clashes with Republicans who pretended to be concerned about her response to Benghazi. The GOP control of the Senate could push Biden to go with more centrist options like Lael Brainard for Treasury or Tony Blinken for Secretary of State.
Okay, so a couple of things there. First of all, it'll give Biden an excuse not to pick Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Why does he need an excuse? I was led to believe that there was real unity and that Biden team couldn't wait to work with progressives. Now they're writing in Washington, oh, finally, thank God Biden has an excuse for rejecting progressives, which he was gonna do anyway. So, but at least now he's got good covering. Oh, thank God the Republicans have the Senate so the Democratic president can actually do the things that he wants to do, which is the Republican agenda and not the progressive agenda. Whew, dodged the bullet on that one. As we told you yesterday, that's why the stock market is through the roof. They're like, oh, nothing's gonna fundamentally change. A Biden presidency and a Republican Senate means Wall Street's in charge. Unfortunately, that's true. Those picks that they're talking about for Treasury, we explained on last week in a show that that's the most conservative, pro-Wall Street, pro-corporate pick out of all of his, the people that he's considering for Treasury. The idea of considering Elizabeth Warren for Treasury now, that's long gone, long gone. There's not gonna be anyone near progressive. Susan Rice, there's no progressives in favor of Susan Rice. She loves the endless wars. So why is Susan Rice on the list? She's on the list right next to other people that won't be considered, Stacey Abrams. What unites Susan Rice and Stacey Abrams? Oh, I see, McConnell says no black women on the cabinet. Oh, okay. I want, it's 50-50 on whether Biden will agree to these concessions. But why is it talking about a Biden cabinet? It's not framed as Republican demands. It's framed as Joe Biden is seriously considering this. I don't know if Axios has that story wrong, it's possible. But if they have it right, that Biden's actually considering this, you'll see that there's one name mentioned twice in that article. And then there's talks of, oh, Biden advisors, et cetera. The one name mentioned twice is Chris Coons. So Chris Coons is mentioned for Secretary of State, and it says, oh, his chances have really improved now. Who's a really close advisor to Joe Biden, who is one of his most conservative advisors, that this article helps a lot? Oh, Chris Coons. I don't know, maybe it's just a happy coincidence for Chris Coons that there's a leak now that Biden's gotta go conservative and maybe pick people like Chris Coons instead of people like Susan Rice. Hey, what's the position Coons wants? Oh, Secretary of State. Oh, that's the one that Susan Rice is now apparently eliminated for being a progressive? Funny how that worked out. Gee, I wonder who leaked it. I can't quite tell.
So I do want to note that if Biden actually wanted unity and he wanted to demonstrate that unity within his cabinet, he could do it by nominating progressives or just appointing progressives, but he wouldn't do it. Now, what does that mean? We're running out of time, but think about all the acting cabinet members Trump has had throughout the years, right? Because of the high turnover. He just doesn't get them confirmed by the Senate. But would Biden do that? Of course not.
Oh, I wouldn't care at all. If they say, oh, McConnell says I'm not gonna confirm him, I don't care. They'll all be acting. So what? What are you gonna do about it?
Exactly.
But Biden would never do that because he's weak. Let's keep it real. All right, we gotta go to the actual post game now. That's for members. Hit the join button below to become a member, and we're gonna see you in a minute, or tyt.com/join if you're watching anywhere else. Trump going to 22 is considering running in 2024. That's an amazing story. We'll have that for you when we return. We are on to something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The #1 problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they